Morning, everybody. It's February the 17th, 2026. As you can see, I again am driving. I'm driving to Marshall County to do an adoption. Now, the video I posted last night, I guess maybe got uploaded earlier this morning, talked about sentencing for violent offenses, and in that I encourage people to, expunge cases when they can. So today I'm going to talk about expungements. I'm going to talk about diversions, deferred prosecutions, dismissals with prejudice, dismissals without prejudice, things like that. So there are two things when I go to court that everybody is happy. One, which I'm going to right now, is an adoption. Child gets a new family, everybody's happy, everybody's smiling. There's sometimes just not a dry eye in the house. And the second is expungements. And because an expungement is, especially a felony expungement, is somebody basically getting a new lease on life. I had a case a couple weeks ago. A guy had a felony 20 years ago, served his time, did everything he was supposed to be doing, took a good job at the post office, needed an expungement. We're happy to help him. Everybody was happy. The judge shook his hand, the prosecutor shook his hand. This is one thing that everybody is happy about, and we're glad to see that people can turn their lives around, make it right, pay their debt to society, and move on. So I want to go through some of the, non-expungement ways to get cases resolved. One is a deferred prosecution, and what a deferred prosecution is the Commonwealth agrees to put the case on hold for a period of time, typically in district court, 6 months to a year. After that period of time, the case is dismissed. It's dismissed with prejudice. You don't have to come to court as long as you abide by the terms and conditions. So that's, in my mind, a very successful way to resolve a case, is by a deferred prosecution. The result is like you went to trial and you were acquitted. Next way is a pretrial diversion. Some people call it a deferred sentencing in different counties, but basically what it is the court will take a plea, but the court will not sentence you. If you complete the probationary period, which is, anywhere from 1 year to 5 years, depending on the charge, the case against you gets dismissed. So it's like, you went to trial and you were acquitted. Now, if you mess up, they've got your plea and they'll sentence you, and then you will become a felon. And then you'll have to go through the expungements. So another way a case can be resolved is dismissed without prejudice. And if a case is dismissed without prejudice, that means that the Commonwealth can bring back the case. Up until a few years ago, if a case was dismissed without prejudice, you couldn't expunge it. When I was first practicing, I had a case where I did 20 expungements for a guy, and one of the charges was dismissed without prejudice, and then another one was there was no true bill handed down by the grand jury, and there was no mechanism to expunge that because the expungement statute said it had to be dismissed with prejudice. So this person could not get it expunged even though it was dismissed, and there really was no reason for the Commonwealth to really ever bring the charges back, but it was just dismissed without prejudice to kind of just in case. That's been changed. So there's been some amendments to the expungement statutes. Expungements can be found in KRS 431.076, KRS 431.078. No, I didn't have to look that up. I know that because when I was a law clerk, The attorneys at the law firm I worked for in Lexington had no idea about expungements. So they said, Daniel, learn what you can about expungements and tell me what I need to do. So since that time in law school, I've learned quite a bit about expungements, so pretty familiar with them. So the 431.076 deals with dismissals. So if a case is dismissed or if you're acquitted, you can have the charge expunged 60 days after the dismissal with prejudice. Now, the new statute allows for expungements of dismissal without prejudice, and for misdemeanors and for felonies. The time period for dismissal without prejudice to expunge that is 1 year for a misdemeanor, 3 years for a felony. So that is a mechanism now you can get that off your record. Kind of same thing with the no true bill. You have to wait your 3 years and you can get those expunged. Now there's a form for that. There's no filing fee. You do have to order your criminal history, and you used to order them through the Kentucky Administrative Office of the Courts and Pretrial Services. Now, though, you have to order them through the Kentucky State Police. There's a special expungement form that you have to order. It's supposed to take 30 days, but I've had them take 3 weeks. I've had them take 6 months. So it's whenever Kentucky State Police gets to them. So that's how you expunge dismissals. Those are the easy ones. Now, convictions. So if you're going to expunge a misdemeanor conviction or a violation, it has to be 5 years after the conviction or 5 years after the expiration of any conditional discharge. So if you were received, say, a 12-month sentence, conditionally discharged for 2 years, you'd have to wait 7 years after the conviction. You have to wait the 2 years and the additional 5 years. The expungement fee for that is $100 per case. So, if you have a marijuana possession, let's just say you got a fine 5 years later, get the expungement form, pay the $100, file the petition. The court will expunge that off your record. And the way the expungement works, the clerk will notify all the reporting agencies, as long as you make sure you put it in the expungement order. And they'll notify the federal government, Kentucky reporting agencies, KSP, all that other stuff, and then it'll be off your record like it never happened. That's the point of an expungement. The felonies are a little bit more complicated. We do have felony expungements now. We didn't when I first started, but about 7 or 8 years ago, they passed the felony expungement statute. That can be found, again, in 431.078. And the way that works is there is a list of about 50 felonies that you can expunge basically automatically. That means if it's on the list and you've waited your 5 years after your probation or after your sentence, and you haven't gotten in any trouble, basically no more than a traffic ticket, then you can have it expunged. But there are some that are Class D felonies that are not listed that you can have expunged. Now, if you're going to have those expunged, you have to put on the form reasons why the judge should expunge it. I had one, a criminal facilitation to manufacture methamphetamine. That's kind of an odd charge, so you're not going to see that listed. Had to have that expunged, put in the record why we thought it should be expunged, what the client did to deserve the expungement. You didn't get any trouble, did treatment, and everything like that. And courts are usually pretty good about it. As long as you meet the threshold, they're going to go ahead and expunge it. Now, you only get one expungement, and even though the records are sealed and expunged, the Commonwealth Attorney is allowed to keep the files just in case you try to expunge something else. So basic is 5 years, don't get in any trouble, and then you can expunge it. Again, you get one felony expungement. Now, in the last video I told you there's a way to get 2 felonies expunged. So before the felony expungement was enacted in the Controlled Substance Act, KRS 218A, there is a provision for vacating and sealing convictions for possession of a controlled substance. So if you have a possession charge, do not use your 1 expungement on it. Use the 218A portion to get that vacated and sealed, because that's the same as the expungement. And I will say, and I'll give him a shout out, Ryan Rice, local attorney, successfully argued that actually also applies to other provisions under 218A, not just possession of a controlled substance. So that can be used for other provisions. He argued possession of a methamphetamine precursor was fit the statute, and that was accepted. So those are a couple ways that you can get felony expungements that you may not know. Now, in addition to ordering the criminal history on the felony expungements, you file the form. You have to deposit $50 with the clerk. If it's not granted, the clerk will keep the $50. If it is granted, you have to pay another $250 for the actual certification. So the full payment is $300. And again, I would advise people to get an attorney on, especially the felony expungements, because some of them can be, especially if they're not listed. And I found that sometimes KSP will say, well, this is not eligible for expungement, when you actually are eligible for an expungement. So those records aren't always 100% accurate. They don't necessarily have a, legal interpretation of the expungement statute. So that's expungements. I encourage everybody, if you qualify for an expungement, even misdemeanor expungements, get them expunged. Get your record clean. Now, traffic tickets you may not have to worry about, but some of these cases, like no insurance. There's no look back on those. So if you get a second no insurance offense, your license is automatically suspended for 6 months. But if you would have expunged that, you wouldn't, and you have a no insurance, then it's just a first offense. So this is why it's very important to expunge some of these things. Some of these things are enhanceable. DUIs, you can't expunge those you got the 10-year look back on those. So those are in a little different ball game on those. You have to wait till that 10-year look back is gone. I'll also say you can't expunge any felony or misdemeanor involving a child. So that's going to be like, criminal abuse involving a child. It's going to be even wanton endangerment involving a child neglect, assault 4th degree involving a child abuse, any unlawful transaction with a minor, 3rd degree or 2nd degree felony. You can't have those expunged. So those are some of the exceptions to the expungement. But for the most part, any Class D felony other than those are pretty much fair game to have it expunged. And if it's not exclusively listed, you just, you got to give the court reasons why, it should be expunged. And really, as long as you meet the requirements, courts are happy to give you a second chance. I know our court in Muhlenberg County, he is very pro expungement. And he'll do whatever he can to help you as long as you've done what you're supposed to do. So, and most courts are like that. They're willing to give you a second chance. So, if you all have any questions about it, you've got my number on Facebook. You can hit me up in the comments. Be more than happy to help you out. I love doing expungements. It's like I said, it's like doing adoptions. Everybody's happy. There are no losers in expungements. Everybody's a winner. It's a good thing, and I'm glad that the state legislature decided to pass it a few years ago, and it really helps us out. I will say one final thing: if you can't afford an attorney, they do, like once a year, the legal aid and some pro bono attorneys will offer free expungements for you. So if if you can't afford one, take advantage of that. Look that up online, because they'll go to the clerk's office and they'll be there. I think people from maybe even the DPA and legal aid and private attorneys will be there, and they'll help you fill out the forms. And I think the clerk even waives the filing fees. And so it's like a free open season on getting an expungement. So if you can't afford an attorney and you just you can't you want to get it done, and you're okay with waiting till one of those come around. I think they do them about once a year. So take advantage of that if you can't afford an attorney, and if you can, certainly see me or see some other attorney. The costs are pretty reasonable, and the effect is you can vote. You can sit on juries. Not that you want to, but the real thing is you possess a firearm. You're eligible for diversions again. You don't have to say you're a felon. It's take advantage of it. It's not enough people do. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. Y'all have a safe day.